All right. I like this song. I hope you like this song. I think it kind of fits the vibe and intensity that we're going to go with tonight. As I said, make sure you've got your equipment, make sure you got some water, make sure you're comfortable. Comfort is key for orgasm. Comfort is key. You want your body to be relaxed. Orgasm is actually a release. So you want to make sure that you're as relaxed as possible. Have your video on so we can see you, so you can see us, so we can be together. It's way more valuable for you and fun for us. Anything else by way of intro? I think that's it. We are not going to require helmets today, okay? Sometimes for intense sessions like this, you gotta wear your helmet, your bike helmet, your motorcycle helmet, or put a towel around your head, or, something. But,
goggles.
Goggles,
Yeah.
right? Sunglasses. It's gonna be a very bright transmission tonight. So sunglasses might be good. If you have sunglasses, you might want to roll with that. I'm going to turn it over to I'm like the intro act here. I'm going to turn it over to the sexier of the pair, the one of the pair that if you were stuck in an elevator, you'd rather be stuck in the elevator with her, probably.
You never know these days, right? Well, tonight, everybody, I want to welcome you. Welcome, welcome. Tonight, we're learning about orgasm and how to extend it. So, feel that in your body for a minute. Like, whoa.
Whew.
I don't know what I'm letting some people in here. I don't know what you were doing just before this.
So you don't have to do that.
But whatever that was, you can just let that drift away. Part of really getting what you came for tonight is being here, fully participating, put the texts away, close those tabs, really be here, turn those videos on.
And feel your body. I love what Alicia's saying. Really be here. Now, we don't want to have a mental conversation with you about orgasm. Really feel your body. Okay, you're in your home, it's safe, etc., etc. Really feel your body.
And another thing about participating, a lot of people come to us and maybe they're, in a new relationship. People come to us that are completely single. People have been together for decades. And sometimes people in relationship or they're dating someone and they say, how do I know if this is the right relationship? Or how can I tell if this is going to work out? And what we always say is go full on, road test the relationship, put your whole self in, and that's how you'll know. And that is how we recommend participating tonight. Many of you are here, you're in mastery of relationship. Hi guys, it's been a couple of weeks, we've missed you. Oh my gosh, it's so lovely to see all of your smiles and waves. And for those of you that are new, Mastery of Relationship is our weekly group online course. It's a community. We're all here together. We meet pretty much weekly. And those of you that are new, you're new. Hello, you're our guests, and we want to welcome you. And we know that you came here because you're interested in orgasm and how to extend it. And many of you came here because you're interested in learning about working with Erwan and me and how we can help you enhance your love life and your sex life. And so the way to find that out is to play fully tonight. Really be here. So the way that this is going to go is that we are going to very shortly dive into orgasm and how to extend it. And we will show you graphs and images, and we'll say a little bit more about what we're going to show you in a couple of minutes in terms of the content tonight. So that's going to be most of tonight. I know, a little
You've
teaser.
Piqued my interest. What is that other thing that we're going to show them?
So part of tonight is going to be really feeling our bodies. We will meditate. You'll have an opportunity to do a writing exercise about what you've learned. You'll be in breakout rooms with each other. Those of you that are new, you'll have an opportunity to sign up to speak to me privately about your own love life and what support you'd like. Some of you may already know that you want that support, that you'd like to speak with me privately. And for those of you, I've just put our text in the chat or a link. You can use either of those now to text us or click the link, fill out the form, tell me you want to talk to me privately, and I'll get back to you soon to schedule. Now, orgasm. We have very complex relationships with orgasm and sexuality, and we're known as a place to study sex and study orgasm that's safe, where you can actually be yourself, you can feel. Part of tonight will be a video demonstration.
Oh,
this is what I was alluding to, a video demonstration of a practice to extend orgasm throughout your body, to produce that in another person's body. It's a clitoral stroking manual technique. For that part of the evening, you are welcome to skip that part. If that's a little much for you, that is totally fine. Most of you will probably want to be there for that. It's going to be towards the end of the evening. The key here is being present in your body as we're studying sex and as we're studying orgasm.
And then I had a picture here, just to sort of prep folks of the group. It was right here, in this part from the demo.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not there?
I don't know. This is technology being weird.
Okay, and then did we have a second keynote? We're handling a technical issue here. That's interesting. Okay, all right. And then do we have the demo ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We sure do.
Right. So we're headed, that's going to be where things really take off. And I like what Alicia was saying. You may not want to see that. That might be too much. You may want to learn about what are the clinical signs of orgasm and how do you have that and how do you create that in somebody else's body. We're going to cover all of that. And we've left the video demonstration for the end so that if that's too much, that's fine. You don't watch that part. We'll cover how to get in contact with us and everything before that. So you won't miss anything, in a sense, if that is too much for you.
So for those of you who haven't met us before, we have been doing this for a very long time. So we're very comfortable with orgasm and sex, and we've probably not much we haven't seen, right? I mean, some people come to us and they have orgasm and they love it and they want to have more. Other people come to us and they're like, wow, I'm not sure if I've had an orgasm, or I can orgasm in this situation, but not that situation. And people are single and people are in a relationship. And sometimes people come to us that want to increase the chemistry and the passion in their relationship. Sometimes people want to know how to get into a successful relationship. So we've been doing this a long time, since 1995, and we're really excited to share all of this with you. We have a whole method that we use to support you in your relationship goals and in your sex goals, and we'll get into that later. And you'll see how to put a relationship together, like what the elements are that make a successful relationship and sex life. And, we're going to start with the last part of our method. Eat dessert first, right? Start at the end first. So cultivating your sexual potential is the fifth part of our method, which is all about sex, orgasm, and pleasure. So we're going to start here tonight.
So we'll say a little bit about our backgrounds briefly. For me, it was a very rough start in my childhood. I'll spare you all the drama, but what my parents did have going for them is that they were sexy. My dad, Daniel, and my mother, Renee, they were sexy. They were crazy. They were not functional. They got divorced when I was 3. It was traumatic. I was in psychotherapy, psychoanalysis at 15 years old. The whole bit. It really was a nightmare. She moved away. I had to deal with my mother leaving, like all this stuff, right? That's another part of our method. How do you deal with your relationship blueprint? How do you deal with your psychological issues? We're going to talk about that later. But what I'm saying now is that my parents were sexy. They actually had that down. That gave me a good start for our topic tonight. Then I got into a lot of relationships as a teenager. I was in a relationship with this girl, and I was in a relationship with that girl. It was New York City in the 80s. It was just absolutely off the hook. It was just absolutely crazy. It was, kind of wild, actually. And then I started a school about orgasm and sex and relationship and got into a lot of experimenting. So what you're going to learn tonight is not theoretical. It's from 15 years of experimentation with orgasm prior to meeting Alicia, and then meeting Alicia and then really diving into, what is orgasm? How does orgasm work? One of the things I learned when I was experimenting was I had all these preferences and biases of who I could have fun with and who I could not have fun with. They needed to look like this. They needed to be like that, all the rest of this kind of stuff. And the truth of the matter is when I was actually doing sensuality research with women, I found that I was having a lot of fun with the women that I wouldn't necessarily have selected because they didn't look this way or be that way or fit my preferences and prejudices, right? So it really opened me up to, instead of choosing the girl, because I was 15, when I was a teenager and starting all this, and then, 25, teaching, instead of choosing a girl or later the woman who, kind of fit my pictures, I started aiming for the one that was the most fun, the one that could feel the most, the one that was the most there. And that ties right into what Alicia was talking about earlier. Let yourself really be here. Let yourself really have the experience and sense it versus going too much through any kind of mental filter or thoughts or anything like that. Orgasm happens more down in the genitals and in the heart and in the body than it does in the head. And if you just kind of feel that and sense that, you might even be starting to notice a little bit of excitement or a little bit of release. And that's what I started to notice is I was having fun with the women that I didn't necessarily expect to have fun with. I was having fun with the fun ones instead of the ones that fit my pictures because they look this way and all the rest of that kind of stuff. That was a big aha for me. From there, that was New York City. Then I moved out to California. I got a degree in psychology. I did another 10 years of psychotherapy, believe it or not, for a total of 25 years of psychotherapy, 15 years of psychoanalysis, got a degree in psychology, lived in a Zen monastery, lived in a yoga ashram, was director of a yoga ashram, taught for Est. I don't know if some of you know what Est is, but in the last century, it was the biggest transformational program in the world. So I did all that stuff, but then I came back to romance and sex and relationship. Why? Because it was the most fun. I could bring all the presence of Zen and all the psychological health and ability to have a relationship and all that stuff from having overcome my childhood and psychotherapy and all that. I could bring that. I could bring my heart. I could bring my sex center. I could be present in all my parts, my head, my heart, my body, and my sex center. Sex and romance included that, so that's the area I decided to focus. Shortly afterwards, I found a woman who had been studying that in college. We teamed up, and tonight you'll see what that led to.
And it's like, you never know what a night will bring, right? Like, here we are all together on this magical night. I remember the first night that I met Erwan. So as he said, I was studying psychology. I was in a master's program studying to become a therapist. And my friend Shayna in my program just had a hunch that I would like Erwan because I was into sexuality and seeing how that relates to psychology and everything. And I still remember the first night that she took me over to meet him. He was having a communications game event at his house. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I going to? I'm just going, I trust my friend. And we walked up the stairs. He lived in the Inner Sunset district of San Francisco. And then we opened the door, and I remember walking into his apartment, and there were about 30 people, stuffed in the living room, and it was like crossing a threshold into this other world. Like, I walked in, and I immediately felt high and expansive, and nobody was on drugs. It was like this natural high of community and connection, and I knew I was in the right place. And for those of you that are local or can come, a big portion of our school is very community-based, in-person events. We've just had a party recently. We have another one coming up. So just know, you can be with us if you live on the East Coast or in Australia or wherever, and you can also be with us in person.
So now, that's enough about us, right? We want to kind of let you meet us, and we've been doing this for a long time, and it's all we do, and, you got the point, right? All right. Now you. So what do you want to get out of tonight, right? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to focus on what you want to get out of tonight. Now, what you want to get out of tonight it's going to have something to do with sex, right? Probably going to have something to do with orgasm, but it might have to do with transcending an issue about it, right? Like, part of our method is dealing with your psychology. So you might have difficulty releasing, or, you might have difficulty finding a partner to have an orgasm with, right? So there's all these issues, aloneness and frustration, and our childhoods come to play and play out in all kinds of interesting ways. So write down what you want to get out of tonight. Might have something to do with issues, might have something to do with your deeper self, might have something to do with spirituality or being present during orgasm, or the presence of orgasm, the soul of orgasm, something like that. It might be kind of more in that sort of department. It might be that you want to turn yourself on more, or turn a relationship on more. It might be you want to learn about orgasm and extending it because you want to get into a relationship, right? By the way, here's those pictures. These are pictures from a demonstration we recently did of extended orgasm. We're going to show you a little bit of that demonstration if you want to see it. It's totally up to you. But we'd like you to write down right now what you want to get. And obviously, it can be about orgasm directly. You might want to know, what is orgasm? What are the clinical signs of orgasm? You might have orgasms and you want to extend it, right? It might be something very specific. How do I get higher during orgasm? How do I increase the duration? Is it better with the tongue or the finger or the hand? What about, orgasm during intercourse? You might have some technical question like that, but we'd like you to write it down so that you have something at stake. So again, we said this, I think, 18 times tonight, so that tonight is not theoretical for you, right? We want you to leave tonight and this be the best hour and 45 minutes that you have ever spent in your life. That is our goal. That is how we're playing tonight. So take 60 seconds and write down what you want to get out of tonight. There's some of you in Master of Relationship. There's some of you in Master of Relationship who'll be watching the video of this. So take this time, write down what you want to get. Be specific. And notice that writing it down and being specific makes it personal. Right? We want, orgasm is kind of an ultra personal thing. Right? It's happening in your body, right? So let it be personal. Let tonight really be personal. Let it support you, your sex life, what's going on for you. All right. Now, let's look at traditional orgasm. We're going to put a slide up of traditional orgasm. This slide is based on the research of Masters and Johnson's, right? You might have heard of Masters and Johnson's. I think there's like a Netflix series or something like that, or was recently about them. They were sensuality researchers in the last century. And they talked about an increase in intensity. You get kind of turned on. Then there's what they called a plateau period. And then you got kind of more turned on towards the end. You went over this line. This is the orgasm line. And then you had a sort of rapid decrease after you, quote unquote, went over the edge, right? So that's a graph of orgasm. And there's certain things that are happening during that peak, during the peak of that orgasm, right? During that little triangle right at the top. There are some things that are happening. And what's happening right at this little peak here is that there's involuntary contractions, right? That's the main sign of orgasm. The genitals are involuntarily contracting. So let yourself feel your pelvis, right? Your hip bones, your sacrum, your pelvis. I'm going to speak New York. I grew up in Manhattan. Your ass. Let yourself feel your ass so that you can actually notice that whole pelvic bowl, and notice that simply putting some attention there, there's at least a little more sensitivity, maybe a little bit more buzzing, right? Maybe even some of those involuntary contractions, okay? Whatever there is, I want you to approve of it, okay? So one of the key ways to have orgasm and extend orgasm, not only to get above that orgasm line, right? To get above that line in terms of intensity, but also to extend it, is to really approve of what you're feeling. So whatever you're feeling in your pelvis, in your first chakra, down there, whatever you call it, right? Let yourself really approve of that sensation. Maybe it feels cool, maybe it feels hot, maybe it feels tingling, right? But really approve of it. And notice if there's a little vibration, a little tingling, a little movement, Now, what I want you to do now is push out, right? So pushing out is like bearing down. Pushing out is pressing down. It's kind of like if you were going to the restroom, right? So you're kind of pushing down, you're spreading out, right? It's releasing, it's pushing out. Now I want you to do the opposite and pull in, right? If you're into yoga, they call it the Mula Bandha. Pull the genitals up and in. Now push them out. And just experiment with that. Pushing out and pulling in. All right? Pushing out and pulling in. Those are voluntary contractions. If you're pushing out and pulling in with your genitals, those are voluntary contractions. Orgasm is involuntary contractions. Okay? According to Masters and Johnson's, it's involuntary contractions. When you're going over the edge, right, that little triangle at the top here, what's happening here is you're having involuntary contractions. That pushing out and pulling in is happening involuntarily. And what you'll notice is that if you push out and pull in and you do that a bunch of times and then you stop, you have one or two more that are involuntary. If you do some voluntary contractions, you have one or two more that are involuntary. And I'm saying that because some of you may have difficulty having orgasm. That's fine. There's no shame in that. It's a culturally repressed culture. It's really okay if that's the case for you, like it really is. 20% of people have difficulty with that. So I'm giving you the bottom line now, right? Like I'm giving you the goods. We're not having a mental conversation. We're not talking heads here. This is happening in your body. Orgasm is involuntary contractions in the sex center. Right? And you can create voluntary contractions and stop, and then you'll notice an involuntary contraction or two. So if you do that, then there's about, 90 people here. Some of you in pairs, right? So there's a lot of folks here. Everybody here, I'm going to assert as an expert who's been doing this 30 years, Alicia's been doing it 20, 50 years on sex and orgasm. You have now had orgasm with almost 100 people. And if you've never had orgasm, you've had it now, and you did it deliberately, right? We call that deliberate orgasm, okay? So what orgasm is, according to Masters and Johnson's, is those involuntary contractions in the genitals. You can prime the pump and do some voluntary ones, and then you'll have an involuntary one or two. Now, another way to accomplish that is you can get turned on enough that this increase in intensity in turn on here doesn't necessarily plateau here, but you get turned on enough that you keep getting turned on and you get above that orgasm line, right? And, that's generally the way that people want to do it. They want to get turned on enough that they go above that orgasm line, right? So, you're with your special someone or somebody that you're really turned on to, and you're really feeling it, and you get that turned on. So notice that if you don't go into a critical mind or a negative mind, you're just really, I'm from New York, I'm not a hippie, I'm not very woo-woo, but let's go that way for a second. You're just kind of like loving and feeling your body and into it, and you're a big yes, and on a curse, it's not really a curse, screw looking good, you're just like feeling your genitals and into it. You'll notice that you can actually turn your turn on up. You can do that at will. So just experiment with it now, right? Just notice that you can turn your turn on up, you can feel your genitals deliberately, and you at least get closer to that orgasm line. If you prime the pump and you push out and pull in a little bit, you might notice a little bit of involuntary contractions, which according to the world's greatest sensuality sex doctors is the sign of orgasm, those involuntary contractions. You can start to create that experience. don't worry if you're not having your biggest orgasm ever right now, or don't worry about that, right? That's the critical mind. That's the part of us that's kind of like keeping the clamps on and judging. Judgment is the enemy of orgasm, okay? Judgment is the enemy of orgasm. So just leave that aside for the next hour. And just notice what happens if you play with letting yourself be more turned on in a direct way, right? Even scientifically, I know, but that's so scientific and so clinical, and I need it to be mysterious, and I need him to ride in on a horse, and she has to, be 18 years old and look like Sleeping Beauty, and and blah blah blah. Forget all of that, all that mental stuff and conditioning, and just notice that you can choose to feel your vital center, your sex center more. Those of us in Master of Relationship, we've been practicing this for a long time. You can just hit that switch and feel it more. You can prime the pump. You can have voluntary contractions. You can have involuntary contractions, okay? That goes along with engorgement, right? That's another sign of orgasm. We're not saying you need to get a raging hard-on, or you need to, have your pussy lips totally plumped and swelled up. Yes, it can go to that place. But that increase in turn-on goes with increased blood flow, right? So we've talked about involuntary contractions, we've talked about engorgement, and most importantly, we have talked about approval, right? Approving of your sex center. There is no good orgasm without approving of your whole pelvis and your sex center.
I could not believe the approval. Okay, when I first had my first extended orgasm date with Erwan, which was us kind of exploring my orgasm, right? Which I had heard Erwan was a master of this. And then when he and I started dating, I was really excited. I remember the first time I came to your house, I was like, yes, I want to talk, but like, can I try this orgasm thing with you? And so there we were, in his bedroom, and he was sitting up by my side, and I was laying down, and he was stroking my clitoris, and I was blown away. He was like, oh my gosh, like your lips are so pink and beautiful, and wow, I stroke your clit, and you're feeling so much. And I'm like, oh wow, that performance anxiety thing was nowhere to be found in that scenario, because he was being so positive and approving.
That's the key. That's the most important part. The approval, which is the heart open, and the sensing, right? So your body and your sex center are open, okay? So now let's write down. This is going to be a little bit of a writing part now. I'd like you to write down the signs of orgasm. We're going to list 5 or 6 of them. Involuntary contractions in the genitals. Okay, so you know what it is clinically. You're going to see it shortly if you choose to. That's up to you. Engorgement. We've talked about that. There tends to be, according to Masters and Johnson's, it's our experience as well, increased heart rate. Pregnancy mass, that means darkness around the eyes. Abdominal ridging, that means involuntary contractions in the abdomen. Blushing, right? Like reddening, blushing, typically happens in the face and the chest. Light sheen of perspiration. Okay, so during this orgasm, that's what's going on in this portion, involuntary contractions, engorgement, etc., etc. But it doesn't really capture it, because there's something that Masters and Johnson's couldn't really measure, and that's release. There has to be release. So I'd like you to underline the word release. There needs to be release. Orgasm is not edging. Edging is that thing where you stay right before orgasm and you clench all your muscles and you don't let yourself have an orgasm. You might vibrate a little bit, but it's not excuse me, it's not really that pleasurable. You know, you're more like holding back, okay? So write down the word release and underline it, because that's really critical to orgasm. And it's one of the things that people are looking for in orgasm. They're looking for two things, right? Pleasure, right? Like really high level of pleasure, and a high level of release, right? You really let go. You just, afterwards, you just feel like $1,000,000. You're hanging out. Everything is good. It's like,
You look like you've gotten your hair done.
right? You probably even look like, you know, when Alicia and I do demonstrations of extended orgasm, Alicia always, you'll see, looks like she's had her hair done afterwards. I do not know how that happens, but, you know, we'll prove it to you tonight if you want to stick around for that part. Now, we're going to make a transition now to, we're going to make a very big transition. So this is where we're going from Earth orbit to, you know, outside of the Earth's orbit, really to, you know, further reaches, to extended orgasm. So how do you change this into this? All right, how do you change this into this? Because there's a big difference between the two. Well, that last sign of orgasm that we added in, that's really the key. What orgasm is a very high level of sensitivity, sexually being turned on, like really, really, really turned on, and releasing at the same time. That's what it is. So I recommend you write that down. You know, very high level of turn on past the orgasm line, plus release. Okay, we want to demystify it here. Right, because sometimes people are like waiting for it to happen, or hoping it happens to them, or thinking it can only happen with, you know, a guy who's 6 feet tall and rides a horse, or, you know, a woman who's, you know, double D cup, you know, blah, blah, breast size, da, 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 you know, all the rest of that kind of stuff. But really what it is a very high level of turn on, a high level of intensity plus release. So that clues us in as to how to extend orgasm, how to change it from this to this. Because how people achieve this type of orgasm is they get turned on, then they plateau, then they clench up, they tense up, they start, you know, sucking faster, rubbing faster, I'm going to curse, fucking faster. You know, they start to have this kind of tense peak, and then they crash over the edge very quickly. It's fine, it's fun, everybody does it, nothing wrong with it, we're not against it, we're not the moral police, but we are fans of this. And the way that you have this is that when you get to that point of you're reaching that orgasm level, that level of intensity, that very high level of feeling, hopefully even before you reach that high level of feeling, you relax. You really relax, you push your genitals out, you relax your body. When most people do that, their turn on goes down. But if you let your heart nerve endings, so to speak, your body nerve endings, your vital sex center nerve endings keep reaching and feeling, you keep being a yes, you keep being open. That's why Alicia started the session with like really being here and being present and what you have at stake and your love life and it matters and all that kind of stuff. You know, it wasn't theoretical, it was because that much sensitivity, being that high, being that sensitive, if you have that much feeling in your sex center, while you're relaxed simultaneously, you will have not just the normal orgasm, you'll have an extended orgasm. Instead of this, you'll have this. So the key to extending orgasm is get to that very high level of sensitivity and be relaxed. For most people, those are kind of antithetical, but they don't have to be, right? Like we've been building the intensity of the session for the last 45 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And we're only halfway done with the class, right? But there's a lot more intensity, but we're also relaxed. Hopefully you're relaxed, right? Maybe you're feeling your pelvic bowl and your sex center and there's a lot of feeling, and maybe you're even relaxed.
Now a trick, and this is like the trick that works every single time, because the biggest barrier that we all have to feeling this much sensation and being this relaxed and having this much pleasure is getting distracted and being in our minds. It's totally normal to get distracted. So whenever you do, it's kind of like with meditation, which we'll do a little bit in a little while, bring your attention back to your body, whether that's feeling your feet on the floor, at least, feeling that pelvic bowl area and the genital area, and just noticing like, ooh, what are the sensations in there? That's all you have to do. It's normal to get distracted. Just bring yourself back.
See, I love that. And that's what I got in the Zen monastery, is that concentration and an ability to focus is critical for not only Zen and Zazen, which means Zen meditation, not only for happiness, but really for orgasm. And where are you focused? You're focused on your sex center so that the sensation can build, but you're also comfortable and relaxed so you can maintain that high level of sensation. And if that sensation goes high enough, there will be involuntary contractions for actually as long as you want. Don't take our word for it. Try it yourself. If you want to, watch the demonstration we're going to show you shortly. Okay? We're going to do a little bit of guided meditation just for 2 or 3 minutes right now to really kind of deepen the sensitivity in our bodies. All right? So what I want you to do now is really feel your body. Push out your genitals. Breathe into your sex center. And notice that you can go to a very open place, a very sensitive place. And I'd like you to experiment with that pushing out and pulling in that we talked about just a few moments ago. And then I'd like you to relax and connect your sex center and your heart. Feel a line of connection between your heart and your sex. And notice that your sex center is alive and vibrating. It's moving on its own. It might be undulating, it might be tingling, it might be vibrating. And it might actually have some involuntary contractions. But most importantly, even if your sex center is like a block of ice, I want you to improve. I want you to bring love and acceptance and compassion and approval. I want you to be the biggest fan, the biggest cheerleader of your sex. And just see how your body responds to that. From our viewpoint, sex is the most sacred of the sacred. It's how being creates more beings. It's how life creates life. That's why it's so fun and feels so good. So today is an opportunity for you to really reclaim that. Most people don't own their sex. Tonight you can really reclaim, redeem your sex center. Women get the worst of that in our culture, really even around the world. But that can change tonight. Take a nice deep breath into your pelvis. Ah, boy, that feels so good. That's love. Connecting the heart and the sex is really, really beautiful and really helps with orgasm and extended orgasm.